content over everything.
So when you say, oh look at this lion did something that I think is cruel, big deal. Humans also do cruel things. In fact, humans tend to do more cruel things than animals. Humans kill each other.
But they choose to do it.
Right?
Animals don't choose to do it.
Well, what are you saying? That humans don't respond on instinct?
No,
of course we do.
You know, we do.
Right, well, hang on.
It's very
let
minimal.
me tell you the other experiment I didn't mention to you, right? There was an experiment where mice would be electrocuted if it ate. Sorry. So got two mice, right? The one's got food, and there's another one in an electric floor. If the mouse eats the cheese, his compatriot gets electrocuted. What do you think the mouse did? Tell me.
What's that again? So if he ate the cheese?
If he eats the cheese, the other mouse gets electrocuted. Not him, the other mouse.
So he never ate it?
Correct.
I need to look up this study.
Sorry?
Sure. I need to look up this study.
Yeah, you do. You want to say that animals don't have consciousness, and you haven't read these studies? These are the evidence that they do, and you haven't even heard of it. But that's not okay.
This is one scenario.
I can give you multiple experiments.
No, but are you telling me now if they bring...
I'll give you another one.
Are you telling me that from now on, after the experiment, that if every single mouse they bring, it wouldn't eat the cheese because the other one would get electrocuted?
Well, first off, when you do scientific experiments, you only get a certain budget. You can't keep doing them over and over and over again, right? The point is, it's demonstrated that empathy exists in mice.
But it's one scenario. It's not enough.
It's not just one scenario. Let me give you another one. If you're not okay with that, let me give you another one.
I'm not talking about experiments in general. I'm talking about that one scenario of that one mouse refusing to
eat the cheese. We see animals grieve for their loved ones. So elephants spend a lot of time in grief. We also see evidence that elephants have post-traumatic stress disorder. If their parents were hunted, right? There's elephants suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Right, so the similarity is much greater than what you think.
But the thing is,
I'm not saying animals are identical to humans.
We don't understand why they're doing it. We don't know.
Well, I don't understand why you're doing what you're doing. What's the difference?
No, we don't understand whether they choose to do this or whether they're doing this based on instinct or whatever.
Well, what difference does it make? What we're trying to establish.
We don't know how they actually feel. We actually don't know.
Well, we do. Okay, so you're just wrong about this stuff. We can do experiments about what's instinctual and what is not instinctual.
But the thing is,
so, for example, let me give you an example. Not everything they do is instinctual. Okay, we know that there are certain things that are learnt. There are behaviours that certain pods of orcas perform. For example, they have to teach it to their young, and others that have not come into these dolphins, the orcas.
But that's because they have no choice. They have to. Their pod has to survive.
No, but you're missing the point. It's not instinctual, because if it were instinctual,
it is because
why is it instinctual?
Because they have to survive. The pod has to survive. So the younger orcas.
You've got this completely wrong.
One second. You have to let me explain because you keep cutting me off. Then you won't get my point. Okay, so the young orcas have to learn the signals or the sounds in order for them to communicate with their parents when they're hunting or whatnot, yeah? So they don't have a choice to do it. The orca doesn't turn around and say, you know what, today I choose not to teach the younger orca the signals because it's my choice. No, it's just based off instinct. They have no choice to do it because they're out there to survive. But humans, for example, choose to teach. For example, humans choose to learn languages. Humans choose to learn different dialects.
But you could say that it's instinctual. They have to survive. If you don't learn language, you won't survive. You won't get a job. It's instinctual. There's no difference.
No, but I'm not talking about when you're born within a family and you pick up a language. I'm talking about to choose and go learn a language. Because
and what happens when you do that?
Well, you become more intelligent.
And you can improve your reproductive success, correct? You'll get more money.
I don't know about that.
Well, of course, think about it,
it's
right?
It's not biological.
Think about it, right? If you can speak more languages, you're more likely to get employment. You're more likely to meet someone. You can show off your intelligence. All of that improves your reproductive fitness, okay? You can't tell me that getting more resources doesn't improve your reproductive fitness.
No, it improves your life.
Right, and therefore improves your
potential
for reproduction, correct?
Some people learn many languages and they don't end up
having children. But improves the probability, doesn't it? So basically you could argue that all our self-improvements that we do are all coming from our instincts to survive and reproduce. And also, why do you want to have a better life? That's instinctual, isn't it? You have an instinct to have a better life, to enjoy, right? So that's also an instinct. So this distinction that you're
Partly,
making is
partly,
not
not all of it.
meaningful.
My
okay?
main point is part of it.
Okay, so
not all
look,
of it.
Look, let's get it straight. There are certain behaviours.
We're not the same as animals. That's my point. That's my initial
Well,
main point. Anyway.
well, look,
You disagree
we're not
on-
the same as animals, but I'm not the same as you. There are differences between me and you, right?
Well, in terms of culture and maybe background.
We're not identical, are we?
No, we're not. No.
Right? So to say there are differences is not a very meaningful statement. Okay? The differences, so I agree there are differences, but that is just meaningless because there's differences between every human. The question that you said was that animals don't have consciousness. That's what you asserted. And the evidence is overwhelmingly against that.
You did provide
Right.
the evidence, but for me,
Right.
Furthermore, them experiments have to be done with every single mouse.
Why
and-
every
oh, and-
so okay?
and all the
So
time-
therefore, so with every single mouse,
and
unless
all
you
the-
won't believe
and that
it.
mouse, and all the time the mouse
okay.
has to not eat the cheese.
Okay.
So
So let me ask you a question then.
Yeah.
Do you think experiments on consciousness have been done on every single human?
no, not every single.
Right. So therefore, we shouldn't believe that humans are
No,
conscious.
but we don't understand consciousness that
Right.
enough.
But
how can we
but I'm
expect
saying
to
for you to
understand
be
animals?
consistent, you should not believe that other humans are conscious. Should you?
No, but I'm
Because
able to,
we haven't
no.
done the experiments on every
No, but-
human.
But a human
so if
can,
you could deny
no,
to
no,
them,
but a human can tell me I have feelings or I have emotions. I have
they
sorrow.
could be lying.
But animals
They could
cannot
be
tell
lying.
me. Animals cannot tell
Do
me.
humans lie?
1 second, bro. 1 second. You need to understand. Lying is a choice, yeah. So a human chooses or expressing your emotions is a form of lie, bro. You can lie by expressing.
Right.
you
So we
can
agree that
express
humans
your-
lie.
That's what I'm saying. And a human can tell us these things. An animal cannot tell us.
No, you're wrong. Of course they can. Don't
they
be ridiculous.
can't. No,
Look,
they can't.
if you think the only way to express that you're in pain
Listen, bro,
is to say it
I have
in
a cat.
words,
I have a
right?
cat. I have
so
a
if
cat.
you
1
stepped on
second.
your cat's, if you stepped on your cat's tail,
Yeah.
do you think he could tell you don't do that again?
No, he's not gonna. Well, it's based off instinct. It's
That's not the question.
Harm.
The question
the
is,
concept of
could
harm.
he tell you that he doesn't like it?
Of course, by his reaction, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
exactly.
But,
It doesn't need to be through words,
1
does
second.
it?
No, it doesn't have to.
Right.
But
So
what-
they can express their
Yeah,
emotions.
but when my cat tells me meow, 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 I don't know whether he's telling me because he wants food, or he wants to be cuddled, or he wants to sleep, or I don't know.
Come
a
on.
human.
Are you seriously telling me?
A human.
Are
can,
you seriously telling me that you cannot infer anything about your cat's emotional state?
No, of course not, because all he's telling me is his
Okay.
form of communication.
So you can't infer anything about his emotional states. So if you stood
Not
if you stood on his tail
That's one
and he went
scenario.
"Ugh," right, are you trying to tell me you would be lost
Okay,
as to what his emotional state
if
is?
that happened in the wild, and another cat bit his tail, would he react the same?
He might, yeah.
No, not he might. He will react the same.
Probably.
So,
yeah.
so he's not doing it because he chooses to do it or not. He just does it because it's within him to just react.
I'm sorry, but all your choices are within you.
No, they're not. I choose whether to get angry.
So you're
I
saying-
choose-
okay, so what you're saying is-
1 second. If a
Yeah.
human punches me, I choose whether to react or I choose whether not to react. A cat will not choose
So
to
you
react or
say,
not
I'm
react.
sorry.
A cat will
I'm
do
sorry.
it all the time.
I'm sorry,
A
but
cat
you
will also
clearly.
react.
Okay, first off, we know that people with different levels
Do you
of
understand my
testosterone.
argument, though?
Yeah, I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, it's not wrong.
Okay, it is.
That's your
Right. So
opinion.
let me try and explain why it's wrong. Okay. So first off, we know that different people with different levels of testosterone react differently to violence. So if you've got a high level of testosterone, okay, then you tend to react with violence to violence. Okay? If you have a low level of testosterone,
I can control it.
Right, you can't control the
Yes, I
level of
can.
testosterone in
No,
your
no,
body.
well-
no, you can't.
Well, it's within my hands.
It's-
If I have a poor diet, or if I don't sleep, or if I choose not to live a healthy lifestyle, then
Okay.
of course my.
Okay.
I can-
So are you
I can-
familiar? Are you familiar with the research about psychopaths that have a genetic tendency for psychopathy? Have you studied that? Any
Genetic
of that?
tendency of?
Genetic predisposition for psychopathy.
I don't think psychopaths have genetic. Is a genetic.
You don't think there's any evidence for
No,
genetic?
no,
oh,
no,
really?
it's not
Have you
genetic,
read
no.
the research on that?
Well, for me, it's an environment.
It's not for you. I'm
Yeah.
asking you.
In my
have you
opinion.
read? Not in your opinion. Have you read the research about this subject?
Partly, yeah.
Partly,
Not all
okay.
of it, but
Not all of
to
it?
some
Okay, so
extent.
what research have
I'm
you
not a
read?
psychologist, so I
No,
don't know.
okay,
Yeah.
neither am I.
Yeah.
But this is widely in the public domain.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of research that psychopathy is highly genetic. Okay? So if you're born with those certain genes, you have a higher proportion, you have a much higher probability to be a psychopath. Okay, so it's not as simple as I can make a choice and the animals don't make any choices. It's not as simple as that.
A lot of research, a lot of people would say that psychopathy is more something got to do with desires. People desire to. So
where do you think those desires come from?
They're not genetic. Desires are not genetic.
So based on what? Based on what research?
Because
can you cite me any research that says there's no genetic component to psychopathy?
For example, I can't really tell you now. I have to obviously look at it.
Well, why don't we look it up? Okay, look it up.
But I could say that.
Just why don't Google genetics psychopathy, genetic probabilities in psychopathy. Google that. Just put psychopathy genetics.
For example, some people.
Go on, what do you
for
find?
example, like racism, is not genetic. It's more of a social problem.
Let's deal with one thing at a time.
Yeah, but
we?
It's similar though.
Let's deal with one thing at a time.
Yeah,
okay.
So
what did you find?
Is it genetic?
Racism is not genetic.
No, we're asking about psychopathy. Is there a genetic component to psychopathy? Okay.
Well, yeah. One study says that I found moderate genetic influence. Moderate.
Right. I never said it was entirely genetic, did I? I never claimed that. I said it was a component. The other component that's very relevant is your upbringing. So if you have the genes to be a psychopath and then you're brought up in a violent environment, then you're even more likely to be a psychopath. And guess what? You didn't choose your genes and you didn't choose your environment either.
Yeah, but
no one chooses to be brought up by a violent parent. They can't choose their parents.
No, but then you can say
so it's not as simple as that. This sort of straight, narrow line that you want to divide between humans and animals, and we all behave.
So the researchers sought to determine that environmental factors such as peer influence, parenting, neglect, or abuse affected two specific traits of psychopath. Fearless dominance and
and is there a genetic component as well?
They found that the male twins exhibited more psychopathic behaviors overall.
Okay.
So there is a lot of environmental in it.
And genetic, it's both, right? So what they were saying,
it didn't say moderate environmental. Environmental.
Oh, it's both. It's both, isn't it? So what they were, if you look at the studies in detail, what they find is there are genes that if you have those genes, you're much more likely to be psychopathic. Okay?
Yeah.
If then you mix those genes with a bad environment that the child is brought up in, so for example, if they're beaten as a child, and they've got those genes, they're very, very likely to become a psychopath. Okay? Now, you don't choose to be beaten up as a child. You don't choose to have an abusive parent. So your idea that all of our behaviours are all just choice...
Well, I got beaten up as a child and I didn't turn into a psychopath.
Right, but maybe you didn't have the genes. I said it's both.
But the thing is, like...
Right, so that is not a good counter-example
we don't know. No, but we cannot say 100% that genes also have an influence. We can say that...
Why does 100%? Okay, sorry.
We can say that environmental does have an effect because you can see and observe... One second. We can see and observe situations that take place. For example, bringing up children in a poor environment. Like all the lists that I mentioned, basically. We can observe that. Right. But genetic, we cannot observe.
Of course we can. Don't be ridiculous.
No,
why can't we observe it?
Not with the human eye. Not with the human eye.
Why does? Well, hang on. Of course it's with the human eye. When we read a genetic code out, what do you think we read it with? Which organ do you think we read it with?
We need to use instruments and technology.
Yeah, so what?
Yeah, but instruments.
Why does that matter?
Because are you telling me instruments and technology is more intelligent than the human brain? So who created the instruments and technology?
Why does it matter who created them?
So it's better we get our own interpretation than get a technology that observes.
What on earth are you going on about?
What I'm trying to say.
So I'm sorry, I shouldn't be so dismissive.
What I'm trying to say.
I apologise. Okay.
But don't make me out like I'm a dumb guy.
Okay, I don't understand your argument. It doesn't. I apologise. Okay, I want to say sorry.
I forgive you. No problem. When we observe neglect of a child, like you said, beating up, we can see that. But genetics, we have to do tests, and sometimes tests are not always 100%. You understand what I'm saying?
But sometimes human observation is not always 100%. So the fact that it's not always 100% is neither here nor there, because
for me,
every type of inference,
it's more reliable than.
Why is it more reliable?
Because for me, science, you have to. How can I explain this? Science has to go through many processes and many experiments.
Yeah, but that makes it robust.
And experiments are not always correct all the time.
But neither are human observations.
No, they're not. But obviously,
so what's the difference?
For me, they're more reliable because human observation, you can get
based
one
on
human,
what?
You can get one human, you can get multiple humans to observe.
Right. How reliable is human testimony?
A lot more than flipping like certain scientific
Than a machine.
Yeah, than machine.
Because machines are filled with bias and things like that, and humans aren't.
The thing is, no, humans are biased, of course.
Okay.
But the thing is,
are machines biased?
No, but the thing is, no, they're not biased. Machines don't have a choice.
Okay, so why aren't they more reliable then?
Because they have some sort of limitations.
They have what?
Some sort of limitations.
Well, I agree they have limitations, but so do humans. So what's the difference?
No, but humans, we still don't understand humans as it is.
Okay, so when you say, okay,
do you know how genetics works? 100%.
No, of course I don't.
Exactly.
But you don't know how humans work 100% either.
No, I don't.
So that's not a good argument, is it?
Okay, well now we're just we're going inside.
We are.
We're going
I tell you what. Why don't we get to the main thing, right? Because let's be honest, you're a theist and I'm an atheist. So what do you think is the best argument that God exists?
Oh, now we're doing. So we're going right there, yeah.
Why not? Here we are.
The thing is,
Let's not beat around the bush.
I cannot prove to you that God exists, and you cannot prove to me that God doesn't exist. What I can give you is evidence based on the world around us.
Okay, go on.
So, for example, I can say to you,
I'll give you my best that it's not
ahead.
true, and you give me the best that it is. Go on, you go first.
so what I could say, for example, I'm not out here trying to make you believe God exists.
Okay.
What I could say to you is that I can give you the reasons why I believe God exists. Because, for example, I can't say to you,
Okay.
I don't believe that things pop into existence.
You don't think things pop into
Yeah,
existence?
so I don't believe that the universe popped into existence.
Neither do I. So what?
No, but if some atheists say that the Big Bang just happened, it came from nothing.
Well,
And there was
some atheists say that, but
So,
that's
okay,
not.
that's why you need- that's why you need
it's
to
not
go
what
first.
atheism says.
You need to go. You need to give your.
Well, hang on. Let me just respond to that.
Yeah.
So the fact that you don't believe something popped into existence. So what? I mean, the universe might have always existed. That's perfectly compatible with atheism, isn't
It's
it?
either created, always existed, or came from nothing. One of them.
Well, there are more options than that, actually.
Well,
But anyway, all right, let's stick with those three. Let's say it always existed. That's possible, right? And that's perfectly compatible with atheism, isn't it?
There's always a beginning.
So, sorry?
that argument flows because there's always a beginning.
What do you mean there's always a beginning?
There's always a chain. There's always something. For example, when you find a coin on the floor,
Yeah?
you say, "Why did a coin drop on the floor?"
Yep.
The reason why it dropped on the floor because it was in someone's pocket.
Okay.
And then why did it fall out of someone's pocket? Because there was a hole in their pocket.
Okay.
Why did they get a hole in their pocket? And
Yep.
then vice so and so, and then
Right.
it goes all the way to the beginning.
Hang on, it goes all the way to the beginning. What do you mean it goes all the way to the beginning?
So what I'm trying to say is that.
So what you're saying is every event
you believe
has a prior event.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if every event has a prior event, it must be the case that the universe has always existed. That follows from that statement,
No,
doesn't
but
it?
you do believe that the Big Bang happened.
Yes, I believe the Big Bang happened, but I don't believe it was the beginning of the universe. I don't see any reason to think
A
that.
lot of people disagree with you. A lot of people say that.
Who disagrees with me?
Scientists, people who study, who study this field.
Yeah.
Because I'm not an expert in it. I can only tell you from what I understand.
Right.
But the main point is that I believe in a cause and effect. That's why I believe in God.
Okay, so fine. Okay. Let's just clarify a few things here. So first off, it used to be the case that the Big Bang was considered the beginning of time. Okay, but that is no longer the view amongst contemporary cosmologists.
Because science is always changing its views.
Well, it's no longer the case. So you can't bring that to the table and say the Big Bang is some evidence for the beginning. It isn't. Okay? So let's throw that out straight away. Okay? You said that everything has a cause, a prior event. So if everything has a prior event, if that's true, then it follows that the universe must have always existed. So when you said you didn't believe in, you must believe in a God because you don't believe. Yeah, it must have always existed for infinitely into the past. Okay, that follows from the statement that everything has a prior cause.
I don't believe the universe is infinite. I believe God is infinite. I believe God has always existed.
Okay. So on what basis do you say the universe is not infinite?
Because of the whole cause and effect. So
Go on.
Something brings. So God is the cause.
But hang on. Let's deal with one thing at a time. Let's just not talk about God for a moment.
No, but
you wanted to say that the universe is not infinite.
No. I'm
Right?
saying God.
Based on what?
No, God is always existing. The universe has.
Why can't the universe have
come
always
into?
existed?
No, because God is the cause and the universe is the effect.
Right, that's your assertion. So my question is, what evidence do you have for it?
Oh, the world that we live around us. For example, when you see nature or you see the world around you, you see cause and effects, and everything is calculated. There must have been a designer behind
Everything is calculated.
Yeah,
What do you
everything is
mean? Everything is calculated.
So, for example, the amount of blood we have in our body is calculated mathematically.
Well, it has to have some number, right?
No,
it can't. It couldn't be. You wouldn't be able to say what's the amount of blood in your body. There's no number to describe it. I mean, it just has to have a number.
We have the right amount in order for us to live.
Well, obviously we're alive. So all you're saying is I'm alive.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that there's always a reason behind everything. So,
Okay, yeah, but if there's always a reason for everything, so if we have event X is explained by event Y and Y is explained by event Z. If everything has a reason going back, then the universe just always existed.
No, but then there's God.
Why do we add God? What does it get us?
Because look at the world.
Why can't we just say the universe always existed?
There's intelligent design.
Okay, so now,
for example,
we're not talking about cause and effect. We're talking about intelligent design.
No, but it comes
so we've
with,
switched arguments.
No, it's part of it because there's the cause, there's cause and effect. God causes the universe to exist, and then the effect happens. And then when you look at the universe, the way it was formed, and then
what do you mean the way it was formed? How it was formed? What way should it have been formed if God didn't exist?
For example, the way the Earth is now,
the
way it orbits the sun, it orbits the sun for a certain amount of days. It doesn't go too soon or it doesn't go too late. It's exactly calculated. So everything is programmed.
All right, but how many planets are there?
God knows.
Okay. Well, we do actually have pretty good evidence that there are trillions and trillions of planets. So is it surprising that on at least one of those planets it's got the right orbit to have life? If you have an enormous number of them.
To be honest, I don't know. I can't
well, have a think about it.
Really
have a think about it. Let's say, so let's suppose the Earth has to be at a certain distance from the Sun for the Earth to be light.
So it's not too hot.
Not too hot, not too cold. Okay. So let's suppose it was all random. No God, they're just randomly distributed. Okay. Now, if that's true, what would we expect to see in the universe?
What do you mean, what do you expect?
So I've got this. Suppose we take the hypothesis, just a hypothesis for the moment, that it was random. The Earth has to be at a certain distance from the Sun, and it was randomly put there. Yeah. So we want to test that hypothesis. Is that true or false? What experiment could we do to determine if that's true or false? Let me put it another way. I'll make it simpler. Right? Suppose you won the lottery. Yeah? You can dream, right? You win the lottery. But let's suppose you've never heard of lotteries. You don't know anything about them. Okay? Now I tell you the odds of winning the lottery are, astronomical. Let's say they're 100 million to 1. Okay? So you come up with two possible explanations for how was it that you won the lottery? Because it's so unlikely. Right? There's two possible explanations that we can at least think of. One, someone rigged the lottery so that you won. Okay? That's possible explanation number one.
Well, that's not random, is it?
Okay. No, it's not random. That's not random, right? Possible explanation number two. There were just lots of lottery tickets sold and someone had to win. That's the random explanation. How is that not random?
There's still a cause and effect.
Yeah, random, it doesn't mean there's no cause and effect. That's not what random. You're misunderstanding two concepts.
Because one second, the tickets had to be printed, and then someone had to pick the ticket.
Right, but you're missing
cause,
the point. You're missing the point. There's a random generated number, okay, that you picked, right? You picked this number randomly.
But even then, it's not absolute random.
No, but you're missing the point.
Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's not absolute random.
Okay. But that doesn't matter.
It's randomness according to our perspective, but it's not really randomness.
Okay,
because there's
we
always
can come on to that.
Yeah,
we can come on to whether things are really random. That won't matter for this argument. Okay. I think you're being slightly obtuse. To be fair. Well, I mean,
you're smarter than me.
Okay. So my point is, it doesn't matter for this argument. We've got two hypotheses. A random hypothesis, right, that you just pick the numbers randomly and it was just luck that you won, right? Or it was rigged that you won. So if we want to know which one of these is true, how might we try and find out?
For me, none of them are random. For me, they're both cause.
Okay, you're missing the point. All right, are you saying?
No, you're reacting like this because you want to hear what you want to hear. But at the end of the day,
okay.
I'm giving.
So you're saying
I'm
nothing
giving,
in the world is fundamentally random?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, or not?
No, not really.
Based on what?
Because
how do you know?
Because there's always something happening. For example,
there's always something happening.
There's always something.
But what if there's something random happening?
There's no. For example, like, do you believe in nothing?
Sorry?
Do you believe in nothing? Do you believe nothing exists?
I believe nothing exists.
Yeah, nothing. Like,
I've never seen nothing.
Exactly.
So I don't know anything about it.
There's certain things. There's no such thing as certain things. Like, for example,
there's no such thing as.
For example, let me give you an example. Yeah. For example, when you want me to prove the existence of God, I said to you, I can only use what we have in the world around us as evidence.
Yeah.
So, for example, you gave the example of winning the lottery. Lottery ticket, for example. Yeah. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
For example, you can use many examples based on what we can use as.
All right. Can I just finish that lottery ticket example? Because I don't think I've ever actually got to the point. The point was, if it was chance.
I gave my answer.
Okay. We'll come back to it, right? If it was chance, what we would expect to find is that there's lots of lottery tickets sold. Then that would explain why somebody won, because someone had to get lucky, right? But if there was only one lottery ticket
You
sold,
call it luck. I don't call it luck.
I know. We can come to that, right? The point is, if it was luck, if it was chance, then we should expect there to be a lot of lottery tickets sold. Okay? That's what we should expect to see. If we don't find that, then we should probably rule out luck. Yeah, because that wouldn't explain it. The probability would be too low.
Yeah, but there's a chance you would win and there's a chance you would
Someone has to win if lots of lottery tickets are sold.
Yeah, of course.
But that's not true if only one ticket is sold. It's not true that someone had to win. Let's say there's 14 million different lottery tickets. Let's suppose, hypothetically, they're randomly selected. Yeah, I know you don't believe in randomness, but let's just suppose, hypothetically, that it was random. Okay? This is only hypothetical. Okay? If it was random that you got the winning lottery ticket, and the odds are 14 million to 1, right? Then we can expect there to be, if it was random, the best explanation would be there are lots of lottery tickets sold. In fact, if 14 million different lottery tickets were bought, by chance, it must be the case that somebody won. No, that has to be true. That just logically follows. Okay?
Yeah, but there's no point in you explaining this
Right.
because
So
I've already told you my answer.
Right. So the question then is, all right. Well, we can come on to the concept of randomness more fundamentally. But the point is, can we test the hypothesis that there's lots of lottery tickets? So if we find there's lots of planets out there, that's the equivalent of there lots of lottery tickets being sold. And what we have,
we will never find.
Really, we already have.
No, not really.
Yes, we have.
We still don't know what goes beyond the universe itself.
We're not talking about what's beyond the universe. We're talking about whether there are other planets.
No, we have found a certain
Okay.
number of planets.
We found,
but there may be more.
We found that virtually every single star has multiple planets around. That has been a recent finding of science only in the last 20 years.
But there could be more.
Okay, yeah, there could be more. That would make it even more easy for it to be chance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but then,
More is better
do you
for the chance.
do you think humans will reach to the level where they'll reach God?
No, because I don't believe in God. So we're never going to reach God. Because
Yeah, but
I
the
don't
thing
believe
is,
God exists.
we have to go back to the whole concept of intelligent design when you were talking about
All right,
the
let's
sun.
talk about intelligent design.
Yeah.
Fine.
Because I have to
We
go
have.
into
Okay,
how
fine.
much
So So we have good evidence that evolution is how we get intelligence. It's not through an intelligent designer. Evolution can do that. Are you familiar with the evidence for evolution? But are you familiar with the more modern genetic evidence for evolution?
I know. It's not a subject where I'm very knowledgeable on. But
Okay,
I have
can I suggest some reading then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Read Ken Miller. He's a theist, he's not an atheist. So, you won't have to worry that an atheist is trying to shove evolution. He's got 2 books on evolution. Read him. There's another guy called Douglas Fairbanks. Not Douglas Fairbanks, sorry. I've forgotten his name. Just Google Fairbanks. I think the book is relatively. Let me give you one example of the evidence for evolution and how powerful it is. Okay. So, if we think humans and chimps share a common ancestor, which is what evolution says, okay, then we have a very interesting thing to explain. We have one less pair of chromosomes than chimps and other great apes. Okay, so you know that we're made of chromosomes, right? Okay. So we have one less pair of chromosomes than chimps. So you can't just delete a whole chromosome. There's too much important genetic information there. The organism will die. So the only explanation really is that the chromosomes must have fused together. Okay, that would explain why we have one less. So if we inherited those chromosomes from our ancestors who were the same ancestors as chimps, and the chromosomes fused together, that would explain why we have one less in an evolutionary context. The beauty of this is that we can test this, because at the end of each chromosome there's something called a telomere. Okay, so imagine my arms are the chromosomes. So let's remember the fists are the ends of the chromosome, and they're the telomeres. If they fused together, the telomeres are normally at the end of the chromosome. Where will the telomeres be now if they fuse together? So imagine from here to here is a chromosome, and on the end of the chromosome is my fist. So that's one chromosome, that's another chromosome. They fuse together.
It will spread, isn't it?
No.
It will connect.
Yeah, where?
You said at the end, no?
Well, they were at the end. They fused together, so now this is one long. Give me your arms. We'll do it with yours because then I can point to it. So that's the end of a chromosome called a telomere. That's another end. So let's say that this to here is a chromosome and this to here is a chromosome. Now put your fist together. Okay, so now we've got one chromosome where we used to have 2. And the telomeres were at the end. Where are they now? Come on, you can work this out.
I don't know. I'm not really. Science is
this isn't about science. This is not about. This is just simple logic.
So the ends have come together.
Yes. So now we've got one chromosome.
Yeah, one.
So where there were right, so 2 have become 1, and where are they on the chromosome? Remember, this is now one chromosome from here to here.
Oh, they're on this end, no?
Your fists are at the end, okay?
Now just tell me, because
they're in the middle, aren't they?
Oh, okay, yeah, because they're connected, yeah.
Right, so they fuse together, they're now in the middle.
Yeah.
So if the evolution is true, we should find a fused chromosome with telomeres in the middle, not at the end. Okay? And guess what we find? We find that on human chromosome number 2, we have a fused chromosome with telomeres in the middle. And it matches the extra chromosome that the chimps have. But it goes better than that. We can go even better than that. Because in the middle of a chromosome, we have something called a centromere. Okay, so in the middle of every chromosome, there's a centromere. Okay? So if 2 chromosomes fuse together, how many centromeres will we have? Normally there's 1 and it's in the middle. So if 2 fuse together, where will it be? How many will we have and where will it be?
I don't know, you tell me, because the thing
well, what's 1 plus 1? We had 1 chromosome.
Yeah, 1 plus 1 is 2, obviously.
Okay. So tell me how many chromosomes we're going to how many centromeres we're going to have. Normally there's 1 centromere, and the 2 have fused together. How many chromosomes are we going to have? Sorry?
1, no? There's 2 coming together.
2 coming together.
And then it forms 1, no? The
centromeres are not on the end, they're in the middle. So when they fuse together, they don't touch each other.
I'll be honest with you. What's your name?
Phil.
Phil, yeah. You've gone into subject that I'm not really strong on. But
okay.
Science,
but to be fair,
one second. You've talked a lot, innit? You've talked a lot, yeah.
I'm sorry.
My knowledge is not great when it comes to the whole science background, when it comes to evolution, when it comes to genetics.
Yeah.
From what I know, is that the way that humans are designed there must be that there's an intelligent design behind it. For example, forget about apes, forget about evolution, forget about all of this. I'm just talking about the humans itself. We don't want to go into that because it just makes it complicated, and it's not. I know you're very intelligent and you've done research, but it's not one that I'm really.
But I'm sure you could do this research as well.
No,
I'm not an
I
expert.
can, but
I just read.
It doesn't really interest me. It doesn't really interest
But
me.
you're arguing for intelligent design.
No, but I'm talking about.
So shouldn't you?
No, I'm talking about humans. So, for example, humans.
Yeah.
We all have a unique fingerprint.
Yeah.
There isn't one human. There isn't. Unless if you show me evidence of two human beings with the exact same fingerprint. From as far as I'm concerned, every human that comes into existence.
Well, actually, I
on
think
this
there is
earth-
evidence for some people with the same.
Well, show me.
fingerprint.
Show me.
I'll look it up.
For me, that's intelligent. No, but
what does it matter?
Because you made the claim.
All right, that's fair enough. Okay,
Yeah.
hold it.
No, but I need to go anyway, so we'll talk about this another
All right,
time. But this is my example, for example.
Yeah.
For example, we all have unique. My fingerprint.
Okay,
is
let's
different
just
from
grant
your
it for the sake of argument.
For me,
Fine.
this is an intelligent design. Yeah.
Why?
Because it can't be random. It can't be random.
Why couldn't it be random?
Because if you get, for example, if you give, for example, if you get any subject, a million poems,
Yeah.
and you shake them, not a million, but you get multiple poems and you shake them and you let it roll over a hill for, I don't know, millions of years, will you get Shakespeare out, for example? Yeah, exactly, so it's not really random. There's
Wait,
always-
hang on, there's a difference. See,
always-
this is what you don't understand.
Yeah.
See, there's a very big difference. In evolution, it's not just random. Evolution is not just a random
You said
process.
no, natural selection, yeah?
Correct. So it's not purely random. So the fact that a random.
But who's deciding this? When does a bacteria?
one's deciding,
One
it's
second,
not
one
how it
second, one second.
works.
When does a bacteria decide to form and change or evolve?
It doesn't decide.
Well, it can't just happen like that. There has to
No
be.
one's saying it happens like that. That's not the
No,
argument.
but does a bacteria? Does a
Okay,
does
all
a
right,
bacteria
but
have?
let-
Does a bacteria have some sort of intelligence? In
Not
order
to
for
my knowledge.
Yeah, then how can it happen? How can it?
Okay.
How can it?
All
do
right,
you
all right.
understand?
So can I just make a more general point? If you want to say that it can't happen naturally, that it requires an intelligent designer, isn't there some onus on you to at least read up in the popular literature? Not talking about technical scientific journals, because that's fair enough. That's hard to read, okay? But isn't it at least some onus on you to read some books explaining how evolution works, just for the layperson? A layperson's guide to how this science
I know the whole
works.
concept of eugenics and whatnot. And
Eugenics has got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No, but Charles Darwin, right? He speaks
Yes.
about eugenics and how.
No, he
we-
didn't.
No, did he
No,
not?
that was his cousin,
Sorry, Richard.
Francis Galton.
Yeah.
Charles Darwin never mentioned eugenics.
Okay, then
It's got
then
nothing
that's
to
my
do
fault.
with it.
But anyways, that's what I'm trying to say to you. So
Maybe you mean genetics.
no eugenics. But
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's a subject that I'm not really strong on.
Right, but here's my point. You're
but you
agreeing.
brought-
You're
brought-
agreeing.
You brought up evolution. I didn't bring up evolution.
No, but you brought up intelligent design.
Yeah, but-
and the answer to intelligent design is evolution.
Well, that's your opinion. That's not.
That's not
mine.
just my opinion. That is what everyone agrees. That
How many religious people are there in the world? There's, I don't know, billions, and so it's not the majority. Certain people believe in this. I'm one of the people who don't.
well,
accept-
hang on. So what are you saying? That
No,
something
I'm-
is true because a number of people follow it?
I'm not gonna go into
The majority of people are not Muslims,
One
correct?
second, Phil.
Correct?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about
So if we
Muslims.
go with your argument on the majority of people, we should conclude that Islam is false.
No, you don't understand what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that I'm not going to go into a subject that I'm not really strong on. But
Fair enough.
I'm gonna
Okay, that's fair enough.
I'm gonna
That
talk
is
about
fair enough. But what I'm
the
saying to you,
I don't know about chimps or how we evolved
Right.
from chimps. What I'm talking about is humans themselves. So how did humans come about? Why
We evolved.
Why? But that's what you believe. That's what I'm
no,
trying to
that
say.
is what the evidence clearly shows.
But the evidence is not.
You
enough.
haven't looked into that evidence, have you? You've never heard of
it
what I
doesn't-
just.
it doesn't interest
You
me.
just all right. So you can't. But okay, that's fair enough. If it doesn't interest you, it doesn't interest you. But you can't simultaneously say that I haven't studied it and I don't know about it and it's false.
No, I'm not saying.
Right? You can't
I'm not-
make those
I'm not
three
sa-
statements.
I'm just saying for me, it doesn't make sense because from what I know.
Of course, it doesn't make sense. You haven't studied it. You haven't looked into it.
No, it doesn't. Because you do know I believe in the whole concept of Adam and Eve. So
Right,
how-
and
how-
I'm saying the
so-
evidence clearly shows that never happened.
So how on earth can I believe in the concept of evolution if I believe in
Right,
Adam
well,
and Eve?
that's all right. Let me just ask you a quick question. So, all right, so we agree that Adam and Eve and evolution are conflict with each other.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
So they can't both be true. Okay? So if it were, just hypothetically, if it were the case that evolution was backed up by enormous amounts of evidence, then you should reasonably, if you're a reasonable person, conclude that Adam and Eve was false. Agreed? Just hypothetically. We're not talking about what the evidence is. We're just saying, hypothetically, if the evidence showed that evolution was true, then Adam and Eve should be false.
Well, at the moment, the evidence is not enough. That evidence.
We're not talking about that yet. We're just asking, hypothetically, if the evidence overwhelmingly showed evolution to be true, then the reasonable thing to do would be to reject belief in Adam and Eve and that whole story. Would you agree?
Obviously.
Okay, good. So then, your belief...
But that's not the case.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a moment, right? So therefore, your belief in Adam and Eve then is directly related to whether the evidence for evolution is good or bad.
No, part of it is part of faith as well. Faith.
But you agreed.
Faith.
Okay, but you agreed.
A lot of it is faith as well.
Okay.
So I have faith.
All right.
And
All right, but you agreed that if the evidence for evolution was really strong, then the reasonable thing to do would be to reject Adam and Eve.
No, but the reason why it wouldn't be strong, because it's always changing. So at one point we say that we evolved from certain creatures, like at one point evolution was saying that. You see, the thing is, that's why you put me in the trap, bro. Because evolution is not.
This is just logic.
It's not a department that I'm strong in. I'm just talking about about.
I didn't put you in a trap. You raised intelligent design.
One second. Evolution is something that's happened in the past.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing, but when I talk
agree.
about intelligent design,
Yeah.
I'm talking about the way that humans are made and structured. So for example, the way that God, I believe that God designed the way the eye works. You know.
Yeah.
You know, for example, would you give up your eye for £1 million?
No.
Exactly, innit? So where do you get this? What makes you say that? Well, why would you? Because of the importance. Because of the importance of the eye. No?
Yeah, of course.
So for me, for example, I can go into the most simple thing.
Yeah.
For me, humans have purpose. Yeah? Humans have a purpose. We all have purpose.
Go on.
For example, a knife has the purpose to cut. Its purpose is to cut.
Okay.
Or the sock has a purpose to be used.
Right.
In order to keep our feet warm, so there's always a reason behind everything. That's my main point.
You say that. How do you to say everything has a reason? It's quite an assertion.
May I just jump in for first?
Yeah, go ahead.
We've got a 6 o'clock booking for filming.
Yeah. We're done with
but you guys have really gone quite well. Do you want to book to have a part 2 of this?
No booking.
You don't want to do it? You sure? Because I think people at home will agree. I think you guys went quite deep on it.
I'm happy to carry on, but if you don't, that's fair enough.
I need to go anyway.
Okay, can I just finish the point?
I think
you say
we're going around in
everything has a
circles, we're going around in
reason.
circles,
You assert that everything has a reason.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say a lot of things have reasons, but it's another thing to say that everything has a reason. How do you know that?
Well, I can only go that based on based on the world around us.
Is there
So
any
from what I
research you
observe-
can do to come back next week and
Well, I'm not going to come back next
Oh, you're
week.
gone. You're gone.
No,
for
but
good.
whenever.
No, it's not cover good. I don't come that often.
Oh, right.
Certainly, if I happen to be in town on a Sunday, then I'll drop in. But
Anyways.
it's not that I make a thing of coming here.
To be
every
honest,
week.
I don't normally like being on camera.
But can I
because it
just
was
suggest
good-
one thing?
Yeah.
Why not just read some books on evolution?
I will.
Can I give you a suggestion of a book to read?
Not really, because it doesn't. It's not.
Why not? All right, a
it's not-
YouTube video
It's
to
not
watch.
my field of interest.
No, but it clearly is because your argument was intelligent design.
But we don't have to go into the theory.
But if
of
evolution is
to talk
true,
about-
then Adam and Eve is false. We agreed on
No,
that.
but we don't have to go
We
into
agreed
the,
on that.
1 second. We don't have to go into the theory of evolution in order to talk about intelligent design.
Right. Well,
the
I think we
concept-
do because we have two alternative accounts of how we all
No,
agree.
That's your
We
perspective.
all agree that biological systems are extremely complicated, right? And they
we know
look
that.
designed. I agree they look designed.
Yeah, they're not
okay?
random.
So the
They're not-
question,
they're not
well,
random.
evolution doesn't say they're random. So the fact that you say that it's not random is irrelevant, right? Because evolution does not assert that everything is just random.
Yeah.
That's not what evolution says. So that's why I urge you to read about evolution. Or if you don't want to read books, you can watch YouTube lectures.
I'll watch videos, yeah, but
All
I
right.
wouldn't really
So why
dedicate
not?
my time to it.
Why not? You got your phone. Why
I
not
do
just
have a
watch
phone,
one
but-
lecture? One lecture.
No, I don't have to. I'll do
Come
it when
on,
I go.
come on.
I'll do it in my own time, but I don't.
I know. I'm just going to give you the thing to look for.
No. I can just.
Well,
search
you
up
can
the
put on the camera because he always checks his own videos. I've noticed. So whatever you say on camera, he'll check. So if you say on
Okay.
camera,
I'll look,
so what
I'll
I
look,
would
yeah, I'll
recommend. I would recommend Ken Miller has a very good talk on evolution. He explains some of the evidence. Yeah. I would also recommend...
Anyways, they got a booking anyway, so we'll just leave the conversation.
But
you can carry on. You can carry on with your...
Say the book, because the thing is,
I find it
you
strange that you won't even...
brother,
Okay.
you might not reach
Thanks
him.
for the discussion.
But
Yeah.
you might not reach
But
him,
I'll
but you
watch
might
the
reach
video
others.
after, and then I'll pick up the
You might not
references.
reach him, but you might reach others. So if you give like
Okay,
your findings, then you can...
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, so there's lots of good books. Ken Miller's written a couple of books. He's a theist, he's not an atheist, but he says evolution is very overwhelmingly strong. Developed, of course, Dawkins has a good book called The Greatest Show on Earth. I think that's quite good. That's aimed at a layman. There's another one by Fairbanks. I've checked it's called Relics of Eden. Maybe I should look up who the author is. I'm pretty sure it's Fairbanks. Hang on. Get it? That's a very good book on the genetics of evolution. The genetic evidence for human evolution. It's Daniel Fairbanks. All right. So check him out. Cool. I think it's a shame that someone who agrees that his faith depends on the truth of evolution, we've heard that he agreed with that, and then doesn't want to.
One of the
read
challenges
about
you're going to face is when you're pushing forward the argument of evolution, many of the people you're going to speak to here haven't even researched it at all.
No, and I think that's very sad. If you're going to critique of mainstream science, then at least understand it. I'm not saying science can never be questioned, but you should do so.
Science is meant to be questioned.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course it is. You know, I think that's one of the things that's the beauty of science. But you should do so from a perspective of some knowledge. And you don't have to be an expert. I'm no expert either. But there's plenty of material that people have written to explain this in a layperson's terms, so they can understand what the evidence is, and then make an informed decision. But rather than just saying, I'm not going to look at that, you know, and I think that seemed to be the attitude
That might,
there.
but the good thing is you've actually put something in there that people can actually go and check out, including the journey you're talking to.
Yeah.
So hopefully, if you do come back, you might get the part 2 of.
Good luck.
That's it.
Okay, well, I'm going to head off. It's getting a bit chilly. Thank you very much.
Come on. Right. Where's Black Van Man? Is he disappeared?
Yeah, but I haven't really interacted our whole week, and a lot of them don't like being filmed. Yeah, so but he's not like a part of a. He's from a.
ContentCOE everything from your man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Before we
listen. Man, don't listen to BBC.
We want to big up brother EC here. He's actually started a new channel. I'm going to support it. As we do.
Man, don't listen to ITV.
Everybody's here.
I do with everything. I try to keep up with science and everything. So, yeah, definitely with health and stuff like that. I've got a couple of videos out there. First one's about 50 tiny lily longitude, 2 tiny, which is a gene that helps the mutations of cells and help these cancer cells. So